bum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-da-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum.
Welcome to Everyday Musicality, the podcast in which we discuss all things related to Gordon's music learning theory and how it can help unlock the inner musician that lives inside of all of us. I'm your host, Heather Shouldice, music educator and faculty member for the Gordon Institute for Music Learning. In this episode, I kick off a mini-series on music aptitude by discussing the two stages of music aptitude and how they are related to brain development. Hello and welcome to the Everyday Musicality podcast. I'm excited to bring you the first in a short series of episodes all about music aptitude, what it is, why it matters, and how we can use it to meet each student's individual musical needs and help them experience success. Before we get into that, I'd like to share that I've set up an account for the podcast on Patreon. If you're not familiar, Patreon is a crowdfunding platform that enables fans or patrons to support content creators. I started this podcast over a year ago as a way to help more music educators around the world discover MLT and implement it in their teaching. I put out new episodes every 2 weeks, which are available on all major podcast streaming platforms as well as on my website, everydaymusicality.com. I do have two sponsors. GIA Publications contributes the giveaway materials, and the Gordon Institute for Music Learning sponsors the podcast hosting fees. Other than that, though, this podcast is my labor of love. I receive no direct compensation for creating the content or producing the episodes, which I do all by myself. Each episode takes anywhere from 2 to 5 hours altogether, from the scripting to the recording to the editing. Now, while I do enjoy creating this show and I love hearing from those of you who have reached out to express your appreciation, I wanted to provide another opportunity for anyone who feels compelled to express their appreciation for this podcast. So if this podcast has helped you, I hope you'll consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can make a one-time donation or a recurring contribution monthly, and it can be as small as $1 or $2. Now, you're by no means obligated to do so. I'll continue putting out this podcast for free for everyone. But if you're so moved, you're welcome to contribute your support by visiting patreon.com/everydaymusicality. I'd like to give a huge shout out to my very first patron, Felicity Breen. Thank you so much, Felicity, for your support. I appreciate it so much. And if you have any special requests for episodes you'd like to see in the future, please let me know. Now, let's get into our first episode in a mini-series of episodes about music aptitude. I talked about music aptitude in general back in episode 2, which was part of a series of episodes on the core tenets of MLT. If you haven't listened to episode 2 yet, I suggest you go back and give it a listen before continuing with this episode, because it really lays the groundwork for what I'll be talking about today. To summarize, in episode 2, we differentiated between music achievement, which is the skills and knowledge a person has learned and can currently demonstrate, and music aptitude, which is one's potential to learn and achieve in music. The most important thing to acknowledge about music aptitude is that everyone has it to some degree. Every single human being is born with musical potential, and thus every single human being is hardwired to learn music and can become a competent music maker. So we all have music aptitude, and actually, we all have music aptitudes. We'll be focusing a lot in the next few episodes on tonal aptitude and rhythm aptitude, but Gordon also theorized that we have unique aptitudes in each of more than 20 different musical dimensions, including melody, harmony, tempo, meter, phrasing, balance, and so on. The powerful thing to acknowledge with this is that it is rare for a person's aptitude to be at the same level in all those different dimensions. It's far more likely for a person to be higher in some and lower in others. Now, this doesn't mean that a person can't learn and achieve in a particular dimension if they have lower aptitude in that dimension. It simply means that they might need more help in that area, or more time, or more practice, or a teacher who can differentiate instruction in that dimension to help them be successful. This is why it is so powerful for a music teacher to be aware of each of their students' unique music aptitudes, because then they can individualize their instruction so that it is tailored to meet each student's needs in order to keep each student growing musically and experiencing success. In the next episode, I'll be talking about various music aptitude tests that teachers can use to measure their students' music aptitude. And then in the following episode, I'll talk about how you can use those results to differentiate instruction for your students. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about the 2 stages of music aptitude. Gordon theorized that music aptitude is a product of both innate potential and early environmental experiences. What this means is that each of us is born with a certain amount of music aptitude, but that may not remain set for the rest of our lives. This is because from birth through approximately the age of 9 years, our music aptitude is in what Gordon called the developmental stage. During this time in which we have developmental music aptitude, our aptitude can fluctuate depending on the quality of our musical environment. This tendency for developmental music aptitude to fluctuate depending on environmental experiences is due to the rapid and powerful brain development that occurs early in our lives. During these early years of life, our brains go through growth spurts known as critical periods. During these critical periods, it is crucial that we receive certain stimulation in order to develop normally. If we don't, then the proper connections won't be made in the brain. The example that Gordon cites in several of his writings is an experiment in which researchers sutured a kitten's eye shut immediately after birth. 3 months later, they removed the sutures and found that the kitten was permanently blind in that eye. This is because during the critical periods of brain development, the parts of the brain devoted to sight in that eye weren't being stimulated, so the appropriate neurological connections weren't formed. There are also examples of the power of these critical periods for language development. For instance, there's a story of a child named Jeannie who was so severely neglected and basically not spoken to until the age of 13. And she was never able to learn to speak fluently, despite lots and lots of therapy. She never became a fluent speaker. This is because the parts of her brain devoted to speech weren't stimulated during those critical periods of brain development, so the appropriate connections weren't formed, and once those critical periods are past, it's too late. In Gordon's words, quote, "Unless cells are used to make neurological connections and synapses related to each of the senses at the appropriate times, the cells will atrophy or direct themselves to enhancing other senses, and the sense that is neglected will be limited throughout life." That's from page 9 of his 1998 book, Introduction to Research and the Psychology of Music. So it's vital that young children have experiences with music that will stimulate the musical parts of their brains in their early years. Now, although birth through 5 years of age is the most crucial due to those critical periods of brain development during that time, Gordon also theorized that developmental aptitude continues to fluctuate through approximately age 9, making the elementary school years a powerful time for helping to maximize students' musical potential. Therefore, if you are an early childhood or an elementary music educator, one of your most powerful duties is to ensure that each student's developmental music aptitude is nurtured during this critical time in their musical development. By providing a rich musical environment that will nurture students' developmental music aptitude and keep it as high as possible, you are helping set the stage for them to achieve more, to learn and develop musical skills for the rest of their lives. So around age 9 is when Gordon theorized that our aptitude stabilizes, meaning it will no longer fluctuate much past that point. He theorized that this stabilization of music aptitude around the age of 9 is likely related to a process called myelination that takes place in the brain. During myelination, the brain develops a fatty sheath called myelin around the neural axons, and this allows neural networks to operate more efficiently and quickly. So starting around this time, a person's music aptitude may stay fairly consistent for the remainder of their life, which is why Gordon referred to this as stabilized music aptitude. Now, this doesn't mean that we can't get better at music past the age of 9. It doesn't mean that we can't learn and grow our musical skills and understanding to more advanced levels past the age of 9. We can always increase our music achievement at any age, but The amount of time, effort, and guidance it will take to achieve more will likely be affected by the level at which our aptitude has stabilized. So the richer the musical environment we can provide our students or our own children through the age of 9, the more those musical parts of their brains will be stimulated. The more the musical parts of their brains are stimulated in a rich musical environment, including a variety of tonalities, meters, and styles, and a live model interacting with them, the more those neurological connections will be made in the brain. And when those connections are made, we are nurturing the musical parts of the child's brain so that their developmental music aptitude can be kept as high as possible until it stabilizes, so that they can achieve as much as possible musically for the rest of their lives. So to recap, important things to acknowledge about music aptitude. First, everyone has it. No one has zero music aptitude, therefore everyone can learn music. Second, our music aptitude can fluctuate depending on our environment up until around the age of 9. So it's important that children be exposed to a rich musical environment to keep their aptitude as high as possible. And third, knowing our students' unique music aptitudes in the different dimensions of music can help us differentiate instruction so that each student is appropriately challenged and can be successful. In the next episode, I'll give an overview of some of the published music aptitude tests that teachers can use to measure their students' aptitude, and then I'll talk about how those results can be used to individualize instruction in the episode after that. Speaking of aptitude tests, it's time to announce our next giveaway from sponsor GIA Publications. The next giveaway will be a complete test kit for the IMMA, the Intermediate Measures of Music Audiation, which is a developmental music aptitude test for students in grades 1 through 6. This kit is valued at $100, so this is a fantastic opportunity. To enter, all you need to do is share this podcast, either your favorite episode or just the show in general. You can do this in a few ways. You can share it on social media and tag the Everyday Musicality Podcast Facebook page so that I get a notification of the tag. I don't have a podcast account on Twitter or Instagram, but if you want to share it there, just email me a screen cap of your post to everydaymusicality@gmail.com. Finally, if you're not interested in sharing on social media, you could email a friend or colleague to tell them about the show and either CC or BCC me, or just forward me a copy of your email. And actually, I'm willing to sweeten the deal. I will give you one entry for every way that you share the podcast. So if you want to post on multiple social media platforms and email multiple friends, I'm willing to give you an entry for every single one of those shares. So if you want to win that IMMA test kit, which I'll be talking about in the next episode, go ahead and start sharing this podcast. In the meantime, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes, please get in touch. You can email me or send me a voice memo at everydaymusicality@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and let's keep musicking every day.